Hey moms and dads, Dr. Joseph Benne here in Columbus, Ohio. I'm sitting in my office in our practice here in Polaris. It's a tone chiropractic. We are a prenatal and pediatric chiropractic office, but we also see full families. But I have been seeing a lot of kiddos lately, and a lot of parents have been asking a lot of questions about sensory challenges, ADD, ADHD, and they want to know more about how we're able to help them. And so I thought it'd be good to come on and just explain the different categories that we do see here in our practice. There's a lot of labels that are used commonly with these types of kids: ADD, ADHD, autism, ODD, SPD, and we don't necessarily like to refer to those labels. We like to refer to the kids by their name, Allison, Johnny, Abby, Emily. And so the labels, the categories, I guess you could say, what we use them for is to really help us identify the case history that the parents report about what's going on in their life, about what's going on in their behavior, and correlate that with the scans. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about the different categories and show you what we see on the scans in our office. And by the scans, maybe you're new to our office, maybe you've never been to our practice, but we use some very, very specific assessment technology to assess a person's nervous system when they first come into our practice, and that's how we identify what's going on inside their body, and that's how we know how we can help them, okay? And our goal is to make sure that their brain and their body are communicating and functioning optimally. And when that happens, that's when optimal health is achieved. That's when children start, thriving instead of struggling. That's when digestive system functions start to improve, immune system functions start to improve. You name it. Your brain, your nervous system, is controlling everything in your body. So if we can make sure that that brain to body communication system is working properly, which is what our goal is through our care, that's going to be what allows us to see the biggest results and get full families healthy and thriving together. Okay, so let's get right into it. The first category that we typically see in a kiddo is what we call a raging bull, all right? And so these kids who are raging bulls, typically the case history shows up as a child who's always on the go. They're constantly in gas pedal mode. They're constantly in stress, fight or flight mode. They have a tendency to really, really like sugary carb foods, high carb foods. They're really into salty, sugary snacks. But they're also picky eaters when it comes to what they should be eating when it comes to fruits and vegetables, or having their food texture be a very certain way. They may not like certain foods because of the way it feels in their mouth. They also crave a fast-paced atmosphere, so they're always, like I said, always on the go. They're constantly running from one thing to the next to the next. They never sit still. They are anxious children. They like to, they don't like to, but they're very, anxious. They're very sensory oriented, so a lot of little things can bug them, whether it be their shirt tag or the way that their blanket feels at night. They have a lot of meltdowns. They're very high stress. Okay, little to no understanding of remorse. These children may do things that seem rude to other parents or children, and they don't necessarily recognize it as something that was rude. They may steal toys, or they're not very relatable to other children. They have very little awareness of danger, so they might run out in the middle of the street when a car is coming. They might jump off the deck or jump down like 5 stairs at a time, or they jump off the coffee table, or jump from the couch to the floor in your house. They're fearless. They also might lack focus. They, are not able to focus on one specific task at a time. They go from one thing to the next, like I said, okay? Possible bedwetting. They have too much energy. Like I said, they're in a constant state of stress, gas pedal mode, fight or flight mode throughout the day. And so they're not going to the bathroom usually throughout the day, and then by the time they go to bed, their body finally shuts down and gets into that rest and digest mode, and that's when they wet the bed. Okay, and then lastly, we would classify them as a proprioceptive seeker. That's another identifier. I actually did a whole other webinar on what proprioceptive seeking is last week, and it's basically a child who is trying to get input into their body from the external environment by putting things in their mouth, grabbing a bunch of things, everything they can get their hands on, whether they're in their grocery store or at a neighbor's house. They're just touching all the things. They like to jump and play and run around and roll around on the ground and wrestle other kids. They like input from their external environment because they're not getting it from their internal environment. That is really what I broke down in the webinar. So if you have more questions on that, go watch that webinar. It's on our Atone Chiropractic Facebook page in the videos tab. So what does the scans look like? The assessments that I was talking about, what do those typically show up when we see a child who has this raging bull behavior? Let me get this pulled up. So let me explain the scans here just a little bit. So the top one, that's a normal scan. This top one on the little triangle here, the white, that is a perfectly normal scan. That's what we want to see in every child and adult's scan results. And this assessment specifically is a surface electromyography, so it's looking at the muscle activity in a child's spine or in an adult's spine, and it's looking at postural energy. All right, so like I said, this top one, this white one, is normal. That's what we want to see. And you can just look from right to left, from top to bottom. It's almost a mirror image from comparing the right side to the left side. We could cut this in half and fold it on top of the other, and they would be exactly the same. That's a sign of good organization between the brain and the body. The information going between the brain and the body is very well coordinated and organized. Okay, so that's what we want to see. That's a sign that the nervous system is working efficiently. But when we start to see any asymmetries or muscles that are overworking or underworking, that is a sign of disorganization or wasted energy in the body. Okay, and so in this case specifically with the raging bull, typically they have good organization. Their symmetry is pretty close from the right to the left, but their energy output is just on level 10. They're off the charts, okay? And so if you look at the bottom ones, you can see there's a lot of colors here on the left: green, blue, red. So not really any white like you want to see. Green is mild, blue is moderate, and red is severe. Muscles that are overworking, all right? And so if the muscles are overworking, that's a sign of wasted energy, and that energy could be used more appropriately or more efficiently in other parts of the body, like the digestive system or the immune system or the cardiovascular system, okay? And so when the muscles are putting out way too much energy, that's what we typically see. And you can see that by this total energy number. For this specific scan, it showed up as a 338. Typically, we want that to be closer to a 100. So that's like saying this child is working 300 times as much as it should. All right, three times as much as it should. All right, so high energy and moderate organization and coordination from right to left. All right, they're very symmetrical. So moving on to the next category. So that was raging bull we just went over. The next one is drunken bull. All right, and so once I get into the findings or the behaviors that typically are associated with drunken bulls, you'll understand it a lot more. But typically, these are children that are not connecting the dots in their day-to-day activities. They are, disconnected. They lack focus. They lack coordination and balance. They're always tripping and they're clumsy. They might break a lot of things. They're not hyperactive. They're actually more mellow or quiet, and they clam up or they shut down when they're around, something that's stressful or overwhelming, or if they have an obstacle come into their daily life or a change in routine. They don't like that. They might have speech issues. They have low tone in the muscles in their body. They just are more, down as opposed to the raging bull is like up off the charts, okay? And so what we see in the scans with the drunken bull, it is, again, a lot of energy output, moderate to high energy output, but now there's not really any organization from right to left. There's no symmetry from right to left, top to bottom. It's just all over the place, okay? And the way that we see this objectively is through the symmetry and the pattern score over here. You can see pattern is shown by organization, and symmetry is showing us the coordination. All right, so they have, both those scores are around 50s. Normally we want those to be up at a 100 as well, okay? And so when a child has a really, really low score, below 60 or 65 even, that is a sign that they are a drunken bull, all right? And they also correlate with a lot of those behaviors that I already talked about. All right, so the last one, it is a combination of both. There are raging bulls, and then there's drunken bulls, and then there are raging drunken bulls. All right, so like I said, it's a combination, and these are some of the more complex cases. These are kids that have characteristics of both raging bulls and drunken bulls, and they can flip-flop between the two. They've also, probably been to almost every other provider that they could have possibly seen before you. Their parents have tried every single thing. They've tried the OT, PT, ST, FT, ABA therapy. They've tried every single provider that you can imagine. A lot of times they've already been labeled with ODD or ASD, or autism spectrum disorder. And so that's a raging drunken bull, okay? And so the scans that we see on these kiddos are, very, very high energy and low organization. So they're, like I said, a mixture of both, but they can flip-flop between being more raging bull or more drunken bull. So if we look at the scans on this guy on the left, we see a lot of overworking muscles up in the upper back. The lower back, we do see some whites, and the tone in the lower back is almost where it should be, but then you just get certain areas that are off the charts. And so it's a lot of high energy, but also low organization. You see the organization numbers down in the 40s. All right, so very, very low organization and coordination. So that's really how we correlate the scans with what's going on in a child's nervous system. And then we come up with very, very specific recommendations based on all of that information to get a child out of that storm and to get them being able to handle their daily lives at a much higher level, okay? And so, you might be wondering what should you do, or what can you do to see if your child has any one of these, scans show up. Well, you can come in and get them scanned. We would be happy to have your child come in, get the full assessment. And if you come in, get the assessment, and have all the information laid out in front of you, and decide, you want to try something else, go another route, that's totally fine. But at least you'll learn some information about what's going on inside your child's body, inside their nervous system. But if you're not ready to do that, we also have another event coming up this Thursday, the 20th. It's going to be a ADHD, ADD, sensory processing disorder, a workshop. It's going to be what we call the Perfect Storm workshop, and it's going to be diving deeper into a lot of these things that I was talking about today. But it's going to be more of an all-encompassing talking about what starts it, where these behaviors start from in a child's life. Why do they have a lot of these behaviors? What's going on inside their nervous system as they're developing? What signs you can look for in their history, but also as they're developing, to be able to know whether or not your child is a part of this perfect storm. And we'll talk more about how we help children and what typical results you can expect when it comes to our type of care and helping your child being able to handle their day-to-day life, okay? If you guys have any questions, like I said, please comment in the comment section or reach out to me personally on our Facebook page. I'll be able to see that and get back to you as quickly as possible. Or if you want to call our office and make an appointment, please feel free to do that. It's on our Facebook page, it's on our website, atonechiropractic.com, or just reach out, call us if you have any questions. Thank you, and be sure, if you are interested in that Perfect Storm workshop, it's going to be at our office, and you can find all the details on our events page on our Facebook page. All right, have a good night.